Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is a satisfying climax for the series, encapsulating the heart and soul of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film focuses more on wrapping up character arcs than on facing a multiverse threat. While there are thrilling action sequences and menacing villains, the emotional stakes take precedence. It feels like the end of an era, as hinted by the stars. The character growth by the end of the film surpasses previous moments in the MCU, solidifying the ensemble as a true family. Let's explore the ending, its underlying themes, and its impact on the characters. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 primarily focuses on the mission to save Rocket, Bradley Cooper. The movie begins with a brutal assault on Nowhere by Adam Warlock, Will Poulter, where the Guardians have established their base of operations after acquiring it in their Disney Plus holiday special. Rocket sustains severe injuries during the attack. Rescuing him entails confronting the High Evolutionary, Chakotay Iwuji, an unhinged bioengineer obsessed with creating the perfect species and society. Complicating matters is the fact that the High Evolutionary is the one responsible for Rocket's creation. In the final act, Rocket is revived, but the High Evolutionary remains a threat seeking vengeance. This sets the stage for a grand space battle between Nowhere and the High Evolutionary's imposing flagship, as the Guardians strive to free the innocent beings held captive by the villain. The battle, especially the corridor fight where the reunited team takes on the High Evolutionary soldiers, is visually stunning. What truly makes this climax impactful is the characters' selflessness and willingness to make sacrifices. Throughout the film, the Guardians devote their efforts to reviving Rocket, but in the process, Nebula, Drax, and Mantis get captured. Consequently, Rocket, Star-Lord, and Gamora go back to rescue them, along with the captive children and all other lifeforms on the High Evolutionary's ship. Volume 3 prioritizes saving lives over defeating the villain, lending greater resonance to its ending. Rocket's journey in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 brings him face to face with the place where he was created, the High Evolutionary's flagship. Throughout the film, we gradually learn Rocket's harrowing backstory, his dreadful existence as a caged baby raccoon, the brutal process of his transformation into a humanoid hybrid, and the tragic fate of his three closest friends during their attempted escape. Returning to this place might seem daunting for Rocket, but he fearlessly embraces the challenge. Declaring, "I'm done running," to his team, he leads them into the heart of the enemy's lair. Eventually, he reaches the very room where he and his friends were once imprisoned. The cells are filled with innocent animal specimens, prompting Rocket to release them all. A poignant moment occurs when Rocket encounters a cage of baby raccoons. Determined to grant them the chance he never had, he struggles to accommodate each one on his body and carries them to safety. Reading the label on the cage, he even acknowledges himself as a raccoon. This scene marks a powerful turning point for Rocket as he confronts and overcomes his past, taking ownership of his true identity, liberated from the control of others. Just like the animals he sets free, he finally experiences true freedom. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 revolves around the theme of creation. The High Evolutionary's obsession with perfection drives his desire to build a flawless species and society. However, his corrupted ambitions result in disastrous outcomes. At the movie's conclusion, Rocket confronts the villain, realizing that his intentions were not to create perfection but rather to express his hatred for the existing state of things. Following their victory over the High Evolutionary, the Guardians adopt a different approach to creation. Nowhere experiences a significant increase in population as the freed lifeforms find refuge there. Nebula takes on the responsibility of constructing a new society for these individuals. Although she uses similar language to the High Evolutionary, the society she envisions is fundamentally different. Nowhere embraces diversity and becomes a welcoming home for people of all backgrounds, celebrating them as they are. Witnessing Nebula's profound dedication to creating something good is impactful. In the past, her only motivator was rage, and violence was her sole tool. Now, she genuinely desires to lead and take responsibility for building a better world, ensuring the protection of those within it. Fortunately, she has Drax by her side. Despite mercilessly insulting him throughout most of the movie, she recognizes his pure heart and tearfully acknowledges that he is meant to be a father, not a destroyer. She seeks his assistance in caring for the children, emphasizing his true purpose. In Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the concept of Gamora's transformation takes center stage. Peter Quill, throughout the movie, desperately tries to restore the Gamora he once knew, or never knew, given the intricate timeline of the Guardians of the Galaxy series. However, by the film's conclusion, she remains unchanged, and it becomes uncertain if she ever will be. Gamora undergoes an arc throughout the movie. Initially, she is a cold and detached loner, showing little interest in rebuilding her relationships with the Guardians. However, as the story progresses, she gradually softens and begins to enjoy their company. Eventually, she even regains the ability to understand Groot. Despite her character development, Gamora doesn't fully reintegrate into the Guardians family. In a poignant moment after defeating the High Evolutionary, the Guardians and numerous residents of Nowhere engage in a heartfelt group hug. Gamora watches from a distance, smiling, but chooses not to join in. Instead, she decides to return to the Ravagers, where she genuinely feels she belongs. She explains to Quill that she is no longer the person he once knew, and it is unlikely that she will ever be again. Before parting ways with Peter for good, there is a brief moment of hesitation. Both looking away and tearing up, Gamora simply remarks, "I bet we were fun." This statement acknowledges her longing to be the person she once was while recognizing that she can't. She can only embrace the Gamora she has become. Mantis, who joined the franchise in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, has often been viewed as a secondary protagonist. However, Volume 3 rectifies this by providing her with substantial material, comparable to any other character in the movie, excluding Rocket. Moreover, the film acknowledges her unique role by presenting her with solo adventures in its conclusion. With the defeat of the High Evolutionary and the salvation of Nowhere, the Guardians each choose their own individual paths for the immediate future. For Mantis, this signifies a departure from following others' directions, whether it be Ego's, her team's, or anyone else's. What lies ahead for her? It could involve establishing a private practice to assist individuals in processing their emotions. Alternatively, she might opt for a well-deserved and rejuvenating vacation at a luxurious resort in the galaxy. Alternatively still, she could continue her superheroic endeavors, operating independently from the other Guardians. Regardless of what Mantis's next chapter holds, it has the potential to reintegrate her into the MCU at a later point. However, for the time being, her focus is clearly on self-care and personal growth, which is an undoubtedly healthy direction for her to pursue. In the finale of Volume 3, both Mantis and Star-Lord embark on separate journeys. Mantis chooses to focus on her personal desires and priorities, while Star-Lord, after a lifetime of running, decides to return to Earth. He shares with his crew the tragic loss of his mother at a young age and how it has fueled his constant evasion. Seeking closure, he sets out to find his grandfather, who turns out to be alive. The reunion between Peter Quill and his elderly grandfather is a heartwarming moment. It signifies the reunion of their family and represents a significant milestone in Peter's character development. As he confessed to his team, he has spent his entire life running away, whether from personal problems, Ravagers, the law, or Thanos. His decision to confront his past, shed the Star-Lord persona, and simply be Pete for a while is admirable. It exemplifies the immense growth he has undergone throughout the trilogy and the broader MCU. Ultimately, the Guardians of the Galaxy films revolve around the theme of accepting past hardships and discovering new sources of joy despite them. This transformative process is never easy, but Peter's newfound determination to follow the right path signifies his progress and resilience. "I am Groot." These iconic words have been spoken countless times throughout the MCU, given the limited vocabulary of a beloved character. However, something extraordinary occurs in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. During the poignant final gathering before parting ways, a peculiar moment unfolds. Groot expresses something different, uttering the words, "I love you guys." This scene may have left viewers perplexed, and understandably so. The other characters do not react because Groot hasn't actually said anything new. Instead, a remarkable realization dawns upon us: we can now comprehend Groot's message. In a 2020 interview with Digital Spy, director James Gunn shed light on the workings of Groot's language. He explained that understanding Groot is not achieved through linguistic knowledge but rather through forging a connection with him. The film exemplifies this just before the climactic line in a touching interaction between Groot and Gamora. Groot approaches her alone and expresses his appreciation for working together again, leaving her pleasantly surprised by her newfound understanding. By aiding in the rescue of Rocket and the defeat of the High Evolutionary, Gamora has re-established her connection with Groot, and so have we. This moment represents a genuine break of the fourth wall. Through our shared journey alongside the Guardians, we, like the characters, have reached a point where we can finally comprehend Groot's words. The film subtly suggests that we are all part of the Guardians family, reinforcing the bond between the story and its audience. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 delves into the theme of redemption. In the final act, Adam Warlock is left bewildered when Groot saves him from certain death. It's understandable given that Adam spent the entire movie trying to eliminate the Guardians. However, Groot offers a simple explanation. Peter reconstructs his life following the loss of Gamora, while Rocket rebuilds himself after enduring a lifetime of abuse. Drax, too, discovers a sense of belonging and familial love by becoming a caring father figure to the child prisoners rescued from the High Evolutionary. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 emphasizes that while tragedy leaves scars, healing and rebuilding are always within reach. It acknowledges that grief may forever linger, yet hope can persist. At the start, the characters in Guardians are broken and haunted by loneliness, torture, and loss. However, by the end of Volume 3, they have forged a welcoming home for themselves and others who have experienced similar hardships. This starkly contrasts with the High Evolutionary, who chooses destruction over restoration. His belief that flaws should be eradicated rather than mended ultimately leads to his corruption. The movie underscores the importance of embracing imperfections, nurturing healing, and fostering growth, standing as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. The pursuit of perfection is the claim made by the High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy. He believes that in order to achieve perfection, he must create, destroy, and subject lives to torment. However, the truth is that perfection is an unattainable concept. There is no perfect species, world, or person. In the brokenness of the Guardians of the Galaxy universe lies its beauty. Rocket, despite enduring immense suffering at the hands of the High Evolutionary and losing close friends, manages to find a new family. The same goes for Peter, Drax, and the rest of the team. Gamora, robbed of her life and forced to rebuild from a previous state, discovers a new path that gives her purpose. Nebula embodies this theme most explicitly, as her body has been repeatedly broken by her father. Yet, she uses her modifications to aid others. It is fitting that the Guardians establish their home on Nowhere, a severed head of an ancient being that has experienced destruction and reconstruction numerous times. Even Rocket, a seemingly ordinary experiment, finds the flaw in his creator's bioengineering scheme. While a perfect world does not exist, there is strength and significance in imperfection. While the High Evolutionary perceives flaws in his creations, the inhabitants of Nowhere recognize the value of life in all its imperfect forms. However, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 returns to the core essence of superheroes in its final act. It reminds us that superheroes are meant to save innocent lives, not just battle supervillains like Lex Luthor, the Joker, or Thanos. They rescue people from burning buildings, falling airplanes, and runaway trains. The film goes back to this fundamental superhero purpose. The heroes don't only save themselves or the children imprisoned by the High Evolutionary, but they also strive to rescue everyone. From the largest threats like the obelisk to the smallest creatures like a baby raccoon, no life is deemed unworthy of saving. This approach feels fresh and reinvigorates the genre. Instead of solely focusing on defeating the main antagonist, James Gunn emphasizes the act of preserving lives as the climactic moment. The scene where all the animals are freed evokes genuine emotions while also delivering humor and a touch of biblical symbolism. During a poignant moment when Rocket opens up to Lila, possibly in a heavenly setting with biblical undertones, he expresses the sorrow of their existence. Through tears, he declares, "They made us for nothing." Although this statement is true, it is also profoundly incorrect. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 conveys the message that all forms of life, regardless of their origins, intentions, or languages, are inherently sacred. True to the tradition of the series, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 concludes with an extended dance scene accompanied by a well-known pop song. However, this time it takes a more contemporary turn with Rocket connecting his Zune, inherited from Yondu to Star-Lord and now in his possession, to speakers throughout Nowhere. The chosen track is Florence and the Machine's 2008 hit Dog Days Are Over, and it's a perfect selection. The song serves as a thematically fitting conclusion to the entire Guardians trilogy. It portrays a woman who is so afraid of embracing happiness that she constantly evades it, fearing the potential loss that may follow. However, she eventually realizes that she must embrace joy, even though it makes her vulnerable to future pain. Avoiding happiness out of fear is not a fulfilling way to live. Since their introduction, all the Guardians have been on the run, carrying the weight of personal losses, regrets, and traumatic pasts. They have been hesitant to trust again, fearing further betrayal. Fortunately, they find the courage to step back into the realm of hope, convincing one another to do the same. The inhabitants of Nowhere join in the wild dancing, releasing the long-overdue positive energy through their limbs. Even Drax, who initially dismisses dancing as something only idiots do, finds himself unable to resist the infectious spirit of the moment. In the mid-credits scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we witness the team's new lineup and their adventures following the departures of certain members. Rocket has taken the lead, accompanied by Groot, Kraglin, Cosmo the Space Dog, Adam Warlock, and a young girl named Phyla, whom they rescued from the clutches of the High Evolutionary. It is speculated that Phyla may be the comic book character Phyla-Vell. We find the reconfigured team on a desert planet, bravely saving the local population from a menacing herd of monsters. Kraglin has now mastered Yanu's Yaka arrow, while Groot has grown into an enormous size, resembling more of a rock creature than a tree creature. His strength has proportionally increased as well. However, the true significance lies not in the battle itself but in the conversation that takes place beforehand. As they await their adversaries, Rocket asks each member what their current favorite song is. They all share their choices, and when Rocket is asked the same question, he plays Redbone's Come and Get Your Love, the iconic song that opened the first Guardians film. This selection holds great meaning, as it not only brings the trilogy full circle but also symbolizes the passing of the Guardians' captaincy from Star-Lord to Rocket. Moreover, the scene underscores the positive transformation in Rocket's life. Having rediscovered and wholeheartedly embraced his childhood passion for music, he now exudes a sense of happiness and well-being. In the post-credits scene of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, we see Peter Quill enjoying a peaceful breakfast with his grandfather, who is engrossed in reading the newspaper. They engage in a brief conversation, and as the scene fades to black, a message appears affirming that Star-Lord will make a return to the MCU. This announcement carries significant weight, especially considering previous indications from James Gunn and the cast that Volume 3 would mark the conclusion of their story. It is worth noting that the post-credits scene specifically mentions Star-Lord, rather than the entire team. This suggests that Star-Lord may appear in a future MCU project set on Earth, such as Avengers, Secret Wars or Avengers, the Kang Dynasty. The involvement of actor Chris Pratt in such a commitment would require him to have already secured his role, which implies his potential collaboration with other Earth-based heroes in the future. Does this mean that the other Guardians cannot return at some point? Not necessarily. While James Gunn's involvement with Marvel may be limited now that he is leading DC Studios, certain characters from the Guardians could make cameo appearances or participate in crossovers. However, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 feels like a definitive finale for this particular ensemble. It signifies the end of an era and Marvel Studios' completion of a true trilogy after a considerable span of time. Each character gets a chance to conclude their personal journey, and it might be beneficial for the series to let them reside in that closure for a while. Providing satisfying conclusions to stories can be quite gratifying.